The movie opens inside a cozy, old-fashioned room. Suddenly, a man drops from the ceiling and rushes toward a wall, displaying a 10-number puzzle that requires a 4-digit code. One of the walls begins slowly closing in on him. Panicking, he searches for clues. He believes he finds an answer in a book, but slips and falls. He studies 4 paintings on the wall, trying to interpret them as the wall gets closer. The code he enters fails. He starts screaming, realizing there's no escape, and his leg gets crushed by the wall. 3 days earlier, Zoe is seen walking to school. In class, her professor asks about the quantum Zeno effect. Zoe has written the correct answer in her notebook, but hesitates to raise her hand. When the bell rings, the professor dismisses the class but asks Zoe to stay. He compliments her paper and encourages her to step outside her comfort zone by doing something that scares her during the break. In a business district, a motorcycle pulls up. Inside an office, Jason is on the phone finalizing a business deal. His assistant informs him of another call, which Jason assumes is about a client gift. He's right and feels pleased. Elsewhere, Ben is labeling groceries in the back of a store when his boss approaches. Ben asks for a promotion, but his boss refuses, telling him to quit drinking if he wants to move forward. Back at Jason's office, a package arrives, a black box that looks difficult to open. Jason believes it's from a client. Zoe returns to her dorm room and talks excitedly with her roommate, who isn't interested and leaves. Zoe feels anxious and tries to calm herself when she notices her mirror shaking. It feels like airplane turbulence, and she suddenly wakes up. It was a nightmare. Her roommate asks if she's okay. Before leaving for the holidays, Zoe's roommate finds a package addressed to Zoe outside their room. She says it's from her professor. Inside is the same black box. At the grocery store, Ben arrives early and finds an identical box waiting for him. He tries to open it by hitting and throwing it, until it suddenly opens on its own. At the same time, Zoe examines her box and figures out how to open it quickly. Meanwhile, Jason watches YouTube tutorials to open his. All 3 succeed at the same time, and a paper slips out. It's an invitation to a Minas escape room, promising $10,000 if they escape. The next day, Ben waits outside the Minas building, smoking. A car pulls up, and Amanda steps out. They briefly interact when she comments on his smoking. Inside, she gives her ID and phone to security. The guard thanks her for her military service before she enters the elevator. Danny joins her at the last second, secretly sneaking in his phone. Amanda enters the waiting room first, where Mike, Jason, and Zoe are already seated. She approaches the reception desk, but the others tell her not to bother. Danny enters next as Mike talks about a childhood pet with heterochromia. Jason and Danny exchange words about a scar on Jason's hand, while Amanda asks Zoe if they've met before, saying she looks familiar. Ben arrives last and greets everyone. Amanda reads a newspaper article about a deadly fire and becomes visibly anxious. Danny mentions he has completed 93 escape rooms before. Jason mocks him, but Mike tells Danny that his nephew is just like him, and that he was the one that suggested the Minos room to him. Amanda says she's only there for the money, while Danny explains how escape rooms usually work, and Zoe asks how the game begins. He tells her that they have to wait for the games master to take them to the escape room. Ben stands up to smoke, but the doorknob breaks when he touches it. Mike tries to fix it, but Danny thinks they are already in the escape room. He comes over to the door and sees the oven dial, assuming it is a combination lock, and tells everyone to search for clues. Zoe notices a mug with an airplane, and Amanda finds the name Dr. Wooten Yu, thinking it might be a clue. Mike picks up a copy of Fahrenheit 451 and finds a screwdriver hidden inside. Zoe guesses that 451 might be the combination and inputs it into the lock. Suddenly, the ceiling glows red and emits heat. Zoe tries to turn the dial, but it is stuck. Danny says they can ask for a hint, so Amanda goes to reception. Jason finds a globe with a boat, which throws him off for a second, but then he notices the lock on the window. Ben tries to break the window with a fire extinguisher, but it is fake, so he discards it. The 4 columns in the room start heating up. Everyone panics, except Danny, and Zoe finds a key in the extinguisher. She opens the window, revealing that the receptionist is a mannequin. The phone rings with an automated message instructing them to follow the rules. When Jason drops the phone, the window shutters rise and more heaters appear. Zoe and Amanda get water as Amanda has an anxiety attack, revealing burns on her neck. The men search for clues but struggle as the room heats up. Zoe notices another clue involving the coasters on the table, presses one, and opens a small duct exit. The exit opens partially, so everyone must press the coasters simultaneously to open it fully. Jason enters the duct but needs Mike's screwdriver. Amanda switches places with him so he can proceed. Jason opens the other exit, and the others send Amanda through the vent while holding the coasters. Zoe has another idea. She fills a glass of water, places it on a coaster, and presses it down. Meanwhile, Amanda panics, crawling through the duct, recalling her time in Afghanistan. Zoe hears her scream, and the others urge her to go after Amanda. Danny and Ben fill the glasses with water, but are half a glass short. During the argument, a burner descends. Ben pours liquor into the glass, opening the exit. They escape at the last second as the room ignites, jumping through the fireplace into the next room. Danny is still excited, thinking all of it is a game, but Amanda insists it is real and wants to leave. Jason finds another lock. Danny tries to dissuade Amanda from calling the police, giving her the phone, which has no signal. Zoe and Jason continue searching for clues. Jason finds the first key for one of the door locks, then the second lock requiring a 7-letter word. They all attempt to figure out the word when Ben notices animal skulls on the wall. Ben recalls a flashback, driving drunk with friends and singing Christmas songs. He suggests Rudolph, which works. Jason opens the door, and they start leaving the house. Zoe and Ben stay behind briefly. As they exit, the door locks. The next room appears to be outdoors and extremely cold. Danny hits his head on the walls, which are giant monitors, and falls on the ice, which cracks. He remains convinced the room is safe. Freezing air begins blowing through the vents, and he instructs the group to look for more clues. Jason finds the door first. Zoe notices the phrase, "True North is a lie," etched on a sled. At the same time, Mike finds a fishing rod on a tree, and Ben tries to light a cigarette. Amanda finds a coat and suggests sharing it, giving it to Zoe. Ben falls into a fishing hole, and Danny mentions there might be a clue in the water. Mike brings the fishing rod over, and while the others try to solve the puzzle, Zoe finds a compass in the coat pocket. She initially follows north, but remembers the sled message and goes the opposite way. Zoe discovers another clue inside a stuffed bear, and returns to the group while Ben walks away to smoke. She attaches the clue, a magnet, to the fishing line, and Mike lowers it into the water again. Jason asks for the coat. Mike gets something on the rod, but it is very heavy. They pull out a frozen cube with the key inside. Jason asks for Ben's lighter, which Ben throws, prompting Danny to retrieve it. When Danny turns around with the lighter, he falls into the water under the ice. The group tries to break the ice to save him, but eventually loses sight of him, and he drowns. Jason gives Amanda the coat, acknowledging that she was right. The game is real. Mike and the group confront Ben, believing he is responsible for Danny's death and suspecting he is the games master. Ben insults them, but Jason stops him, emphasizing survival over blame. He instructs the group to use their body heat to melt the ice and retrieve the key. And while the room's temperature drops, Jason has a flashback of himself on a boat with a friend wearing a red coat. Mike faints, but Jason manages to get the key out. They find the door, which opens behind them, but as they move toward it, the ice breaks, and they jump inside just in time. The next room is a bar, upside down. The room begins moving upward, and when it stops, the phone rings. Mike walks under it, and it drops into his hand. A loud noise starts, followed by music. Jason notices the door to the next room, but it has no doorknob. Mike sees the 8-ball from the pool table is missing and starts searching for clues, but a piece of the floor falls, and Ben prevents him from falling. Amanda climbs the bar and finds a 4-digit lockbox. Zoe finds a sliding puzzle on the adjacent wall and climbs over the hole to it, with Mike helping her. As Zoe works on the puzzle, another floor section begins to fall, almost taking Jason with it. Ben jumps to the puzzle side, and Zoe finally solves it. They figure out how to read it and get a 4-digit code, but it doesn't work when Amanda inputs it in the lockbox. Another part of the floor falls, and Mike and Ben grab onto the puzzle, but they're too heavy for it, and it starts tipping over. Mike is too afraid to climb off, so Zoe jumps to the floor, hitting her head. They call to her, and she recalls a flashback from an airplane accident, calling for her mother. Jason wakes her up and helps her back onto the wall. Zoe instructs Amanda to try the code in reverse, which works. They retrieve the doorknob from the lockbox. As another floor section falls, Amanda jumps toward the pool table, but drops the knob on the last piece of floor. As she drops down as well, the noise starts again, so she throws the knob to Jason and grabs the phone to swing over the hole, but she slips and falls. Jason opens the door, and Mike follows. Ben gets Zoe to go into the other room and stays with her to calm her. The following room resembles a hospital. They all begin looking for clues through it. That's when they realize all of the hospital beds look familiar. Those are their beds when they were in the hospital. Zoe checks another bed and sees Amanda's, learning that Amanda was the sole survivor of an explosion. Zoe shares her story as well. She was the sole survivor of a plane crash. Jason reveals he survived a boating accident in which his friend succumbed to hypothermia. Ben discloses that he was the only survivor of a car crash, and Mike survived a mining accident in which his brother died. They start connecting these accidents to the elements in the escape rooms. Zoe finds Danny's documents, showing he too was a sole survivor. She concludes that the game tests survival, seeing who is the luckiest among the lucky. The TV turns on, displaying a countdown to exit the room. The men search for ways to escape and discover X-rays, which Ben deciphers as sign language spelling EKG. Zoe destroys the cameras to prevent surveillance. Jason finds the poison that will release when the countdown ends and identifies an EKG machine, saying that the right heartbeat will open the doors. He first tries Ben's heart rate, but it fails, then convinces Mike to try. His heart rate was high, but not high enough. Jason wants to shock him to get his heart rate higher and manages to convince him to do that too, but it results in Mike's death. As the room fills with poison, Ben attempts to revive him while Zoe continues destroying the cameras. Jason attaches the EKG to himself and lowers his heart rate, opening the door. The door opens. Jason goes out, but Zoe doesn't want to go. Ben follows Jason out through the vents and the door closes. Zoe struggles to reach an oxygen mask while Jason and Ben argue outside, with Ben accusing Jason of killing both Mike and his friend from the boat. Jason insists that surviving is a choice. They find a hatch and they both grab on the hatch and open it. Suddenly, they start hallucinating. There was poison on the handle and the puzzle on the hatch tells them to find an antidote. Ben finds it, but only one dose is available. They fight and Ben kills Jason, injecting himself with the antidote and jumping into the next room, which is the same room from the beginning. The cleaning crew enters the hospital room, thinking they've found two bodies. They find the oxygen mask hanging from the ceiling, when suddenly Zoe wakes up and knocks them both over. She grabs a gun from one of them and leaves the room. Simultaneously, Ben is at the other room after he's messed up the code. He gets into the fireplace as the wall closes in and manages to escape the room. When he walks inside, a disembodied voice starts talking to him, telling him that his money was on Jason. The games master appears, telling him that he's won. Ben antagonizes him, but he just starts explaining what the point of the game is. The customers of the game are actually the most powerful people on the planet, and they want entertainment with real stakes. The man tells Ben that he didn't think it was possible for him to win, as he gives him a cigarette. Then he tries to kill him, but Ben suddenly stabs him with the piece of wood that was stuck in his leg. The monitor shows that Zoe and the man are both still in play. Then she comes out shooting at him. The man tackles her and almost kills her, but Ben knocks him over and then shoots him, and both walk out of the building. One day later, Ben is hospitalized in stable condition, with Zoe by his side. A detective arrives and takes Zoe to the Minos building, now empty. The detective doesn't believe her account because they haven't found any evidence. She notices the words "no way out," realizing it is an anagram for Dr. Wooten Yu, but the detective ignores it. 6 months later, Ben and Zoe are having coffee. She shows him a file she's put together about the rest of their group and how their deaths were made to look like accidents. He tells her that she needs to let it go, but she continues explaining what she has found out about the game. Zoe had deciphered the logo and found out that it was the coordinates to a building in Manhattan. She's even bought the two of them plane tickets to get there. Ben doesn't like her plan, but ultimately agrees to go with her. A plane whooshes through the air with one engine on fire. A stewardess is looking for a clue and finds it in a bag. The tool doesn't open the cockpit door, but opens to another riddle. As the two stewards try to figure it out, a third one tells the passenger to brace for impact. The other two figure out the code and go inside the cockpit, only to find the pilots dead. The stewardess tries to pilot the plane, but it crashes. Suddenly, two people appear, and it becomes obvious that the plane accident was a simulation. A disembodied voice tells one of the people from the simulation that Zoe's and Ben's tickets were intercepted and that the game continues. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to catch all our upcoming movie summaries. See you soon.